Story 1. I've been working retail for about 3 years now, and I thought I'd seen everything. Started at this shoe store right after high school when I couldn't afford college yet. My manager promoted me to assistant supervisor last month, which basically means I get to deal with the worst customers while making 50 cents more per hour. My parents keep telling me to find something better, but honestly, most days aren't too bad. Most days. It was a busy Saturday afternoon when she walked in. I was helping a family find school shoes for their kids when I noticed this woman marching straight to the customer service counter. She had this look on her face that every retail worker learns to recognize the "I'm about to ruin someone's day" expression. My coworker was at the register, and I could see him tense up as she approached. She slammed down a pair of sandals on the counter so hard that the little bell we have there actually rang. "Karen, I want a full refund for these right now." My coworker, "Do you have your receipt, ma'am?" "Karen, I don't need a receipt. These sandals are defective." I finished up with the family and walked over, since our policy is to have a supervisor handle difficult returns. The sandals looked like they'd been through a war. The straps were stretched out, the soles were completely worn down, and you could see where her feet had left permanent impressions in the footbed. Me, "Hi there, I'm the assistant supervisor. What seems to be the problem?" "Karen, these sandals are garbage. Look at this color. It's completely faded from what I bought." Me, "I can see there's some fading here. When did you purchase these?" "Karen, that doesn't matter. Your store sold me defective merchandise." Me, "Well, it does matter for our return policy. We typically accept returns within 30 days with a receipt or store credit within 60 days. "Karen, this is ridiculous. I paid good money for these, and they're falling apart." I picked up one of the sandals to examine it closer. The sole was worn completely smooth in some spots. There were actual holes worn through the footbed, and the strap had been repaired with what looked like superglue. Me, "Ma'am, these sandals show significant wear. It looks like they've been used regularly for quite some time." "Karen, are you calling me a liar?" Me, "Not at all. I'm just explaining that our return policy doesn't cover normal wear and tear." That's when she completely lost it. "Karen, normal wear and tear. These lasted barely a month before they started fading." "A month? These sandals looked like they'd hiked the Appalachian Trail twice." Me, "I understand your frustration, but without a receipt and given the condition of the shoes, I can't process a return." "Karen, then get me your manager." Me, "I am the manager on duty right now." Karen, "Well then get me the real manager." Me, "The store manager isn't in today, but I can give you the corporate customer service number." Karen, "No, I'm not leaving until I get my money back." And that's when she planted herself right in front of the checkout counter. We had a line of about 6 people waiting to pay, and she just stood there with her arms crossed, blocking everyone. Customer behind her, "Excuse me, could you move so I can pay?" Karen, "I'm not moving until they give me my refund." This went on for 10 minutes. She refused to budge. Customers were getting frustrated. Some left their merchandise and walked out. I tried reasoning with her, offered her store credit, even suggested she could exchange them for a different style. Karen, "I want cash, full price. These sandals are defective." Me, "Ma'am, you're disrupting other customers. I need you to step aside." Karen, "Make me." 20 minutes in, I called security. Our mall has security guards who patrol, but they were dealing with something else. Meanwhile, Karen had started lecturing every customer in line about how terrible our store was. "Karen, don't shop here. They sell garbage products and refuse to stand behind them." One customer, this elderly gentleman, looked at the sandals and shook his head. Customer, "Lady, I've got work boots that look newer than those sandals." Karen, "Mind your own business." 30 minutes in, more customers were leaving. My coworker was trying to ring people up at the second register, but Karen kept yelling and disrupting everyone. She started taking pictures of everything, saying she was going to post about us online. Karen, this is going viral. Everyone's going to know how you treat customers. Me, ma'am, if you don't move away from the counter, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store. Karen, you can't kick me out. I'm a paying customer. Me, actually, you're not paying for anything, and yes, I can ask you to leave. 40 minutes in, security finally showed up. 2 guards walked in, and Karen immediately started yelling at them too. Karen, these people are discriminating against me. They won't take back defective merchandise. Security guard, ma'am, we need you to step away from the counter. Karen, I have rights. I'm not leaving without my money. The security guard picked up one of the sandals and looked at it, then looked at Karen like she was crazy. Security guard, ma'am, these shoes are clearly very old and worn out. Karen, that's not the point. The color faded. Security guard, you need to leave the store now, or we'll have to escort you out. Karen, this is harassment. But she finally started moving. As the security guards walked her toward the exit, she was still yelling. Karen, I'm calling corporate. I'm calling the news. You'll be sorry. After she left, the whole store was dead quiet for a moment. Then the elderly gentleman who'd commented earlier started clapping, and pretty soon the whole line was applauding. Customer, I can't believe she thought anyone would fall for that. My coworker and I spent the next hour dealing with the aftermath. Turns out, Karen had tried this same scam at 3 other shoe stores in the mall. Security had been looking for her all day. The best part? She'd left the sandals behind in all her dramatic exit theatrics. Later that week, my manager told me that corporate had received Karen's complaint, and after reviewing the security footage, they'd decided to ban her from all their stores. Sometimes the system actually works. Those sandals are still sitting in our back office. My manager says we're keeping them as evidence, but honestly, I think we just like having a good story to tell new employees about the kind of people they might encounter. The whole thing taught me that some people really will try anything to get free money, and that standing your ground is worth it when you know you're right. Plus, I got a pretty good story out of it. Story 2. I've been working as a barista at this small cafe downtown for about 2 years now. I started this job right after I dropped out of college because I couldn't afford the tuition anymore. My parents weren't happy about it, but I needed to pay rent and buy groceries somehow. The cafe isn't fancy, but it's cozy and most of our customers are pretty nice. We get a lot of college students and office workers who just want their caffeine fix without any drama. The owner is this older guy who really cares about making good coffee. He invested in a decent espresso machine last year, nothing too fancy, but it gets the job done and makes great espresso shots. Like any espresso machine, it makes some noise when you're steaming milk or pulling shots. It's just part of how these machines work. So there I was on a Tuesday morning, just after the breakfast rush. The cafe was pretty quiet with only a few people sitting at tables with their laptops. I was cleaning some cups when this woman walked in. She looked to be in her 40s, wearing expensive clothes and carrying a designer purse. She had this look on her face like she was already annoyed about something. She walked up to the counter and stood there for a moment, not saying anything. I smiled and waited for her to order. Me, good morning. What can I get for you today? Karen, I need a large coffee. Regular coffee. Not that fancy stuff. Me, sure thing. Would you like our house blend or dark roast? Karen, I don't care. Just make it quick. I started pouring her coffee when she suddenly put her hand up. Karen, stop. Turn that machine off right now. I looked around confused because I wasn't using any machine at the moment. Me, I'm sorry. Which machine? Karen, that loud espresso thing. It's giving me a headache. The thing is, I wasn't even using the espresso machine. It was just sitting there, not making any noise at all. Me, the espresso machine isn't on right now. I'm just pouring your regular coffee. Karen, well, turn it off completely. Unplug it. Me, I can't do that. Other customers might want espresso drinks. Karen, I don't care about other customers. I'm here now and it's too loud. At this point, another customer came in and ordered a cappuccino. I explained to the woman that I needed to use the espresso machine for this order. Me? I'll try to be as quick as possible. Karen, no, don't you dare turn that thing on. I looked at the other customer, who just shrugged and said he could wait. But I knew this was ridiculous. It's a cafe. We make espresso drinks. That's what we do. Me, I'm sorry, but I have to make this customer's drink. The machine really isn't that loud. I turned on the espresso machine and started steaming milk. It made the normal steaming sound that every espresso machine makes. Nothing crazy loud, just the regular noise. Karen started yelling. Karen, this is ridiculous. I have sensitive ears. You're discriminating against me. Me, I understand you don't like the noise, but this is how we make our drinks. Maybe you'd be more comfortable at one of the quieter tables in the back. Karen, don't tell me where to sit. I want to speak to your manager. Me, the owner isn't here right now, but I can give you his number if you'd like to call him later. Karen, no, I want this fixed right now. She pulled out her phone and started dialing. I thought maybe she was calling the owner or her husband or something. But then I heard what she was saying. Karen, yes, I need police at the downtown cafe on Main Street. The employees here are harassing me and won't stop using loud machinery that's hurting my ears. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was actually calling the emergency line because of an espresso machine. The other customer looked shocked too. Other customer, did she just call 911 over coffee? Me, I think so. Karen was still on the phone. Karen, yes, it's an emergency. They're causing me physical pain and won't stop. I could hear the dispatcher's voice through her phone, though I couldn't make out exactly what they were saying. Karen's face started getting red. Karen, what do you mean that's not an emergency? They're torturing me with loud noises. There was more talking from the dispatcher. Karen, don't you hang up on me. I pay taxes. I demand you send someone right now. Then I heard the dial tone. The dispatcher had actually hung up on her. Karen stood there staring at her phone with her mouth open. The other customer started laughing. Other customer, did they just hang up on you? Karen, this is outrageous. I'm calling back. She dialed again, but this time the call was much shorter. Karen, they hung up on me again. Me, maybe because calling 911 over an espresso machine isn't actually an emergency? Karen, you think this is funny? I'm going to sue this place. I'm going to call the health department. I'm going to call the Better Business Bureau. Me, you're welcome to do that. Would you still like your coffee? Karen, keep your stupid coffee. She stormed toward the door, but then turned around. Karen, and another thing. That machine is probably violating noise ordinances. I'm going to call the city. Other customer, lady, it's a coffee shop. They make coffee here. What did you expect? Karen, mind your own business. She finally left, slamming the door behind her. The other customer and I just looked at each other. Other customer, that was wild. Does that happen often? Me, first time anyone's called 911 over our espresso machine. Other customer, well, at least the dispatcher had some sense. I finished making his cappuccino, and we both had a good laugh about the whole thing. A few other customers who had witnessed it started talking about how ridiculous the whole situation was. About an hour later, my manager called me. Manager, hey, did some woman really call the police over the espresso machine? Me, how did you hear about that? Manager, she called me too. Left like 5 voicemails demanding I fire you and get rid of the machine. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. Me? Yeah, I'm fine. She was pretty upset about the noise. Manager, well, don't worry about it. We're not getting rid of our espresso machine because one person doesn't like the sound. That's crazy. The funniest part was that she never came back. But for weeks afterward, whenever I used the espresso machine, other customers would joke about calling 911. It became this running gag in our little cafe. One regular customer even brought in a sign that said, "Warning, loud coffee machines in use," as a joke. We actually put it up behind the counter, and it's still there. I never did hear if she actually called the health department or the city about noise violations. But considering how the 911 dispatcher reacted, I'm guessing those calls didn't go much better for her. Story 3. I never thought I'd have a story worth sharing until last Tuesday happened. I'm 16 and work part-time at a local burger joint after school to save up for a car. It's not glamorous, but the pay is decent and my manager is pretty understanding about my school schedule. I've been working there for about 8 months now. Started right after my 15th birthday when my parents said I could get a job if I kept my grades up. The deal was simple work a few hours after school and weekends, save half for the car, and the other half I could spend however I wanted. It seemed perfect. The restaurant gets pretty busy during dinner rush, especially on weekdays when families stop by after work and school activities. I usually work the front counter, taking orders and handling the fryer. Most customers are fine, maybe a little impatient during busy times, but nothing too crazy. That Tuesday started normal enough. I got to work at 4, right when the afternoon shift was picking up. My manager had warned us earlier that we were running low on chicken nuggets because our morning delivery truck had been delayed. He said corporate was sending an emergency delivery, but it wouldn't arrive until after 6. Around 5:30, this woman walked in. She was probably in her 40s, wearing expensive-looking clothes and carrying a designer purse. She had this look on her face like she was already annoyed before she even got to the counter. I greeted her with my usual customer service smile. "Hi, welcome to the restaurant. What can I get for you today?" "Karen, I want a 20-piece chicken nugget meal with large fries and a diet soda." I checked our heating trays behind me. The chicken nugget tray was completely empty, just like it had been for the past hour. "I'm really sorry, but we're currently out of chicken nuggets. Our delivery truck was delayed this morning, but we should have more in about 30 minutes. Can I interest you in our chicken sandwich, or maybe some chicken strips instead?" She stared at me like I had just personally insulted her entire family. "Karen, what do you mean you're out? This is a fast food restaurant. You're supposed to have food." I understand your frustration. We do have plenty of other chicken options available, and I'd be happy to recommend something similar." "Karen, no. I want nuggets. I drove all the way here specifically for nuggets for my kids." I really am sorry about the inconvenience. Like I mentioned, we'll have fresh nuggets in about 30 minutes, or I can check if we have any cooking in the fryer right now. I walked over to check with the kitchen staff. They confirmed we had 0 nuggets cooking and wouldn't start the next batch until the delivery arrived. Unfortunately, we don't have any cooking either, but I can take your name and number and call you when they're ready. That's when she completely lost it. "Karen, this is unacceptable. I want to speak to your manager right now." Of course. Let me get him for you." I called my manager over. He's this really calm guy in his 30s who's been in food service for years. He's seen everything. "Manager, hi there. I understand there's an issue with your order. Karen, your employee here is refusing to serve me chicken nuggets. This is terrible customer service." "Manager, I'm sorry about that. We are temporarily out of nuggets due to a delayed delivery, but we have several other chicken options available." "Karen, I don't want other options. I want what I ordered." And this kid was incredibly rude and sarcastic with me. I was shocked. I had been nothing but polite, using the exact phrases we were trained to use for situations like this. "Manager, I can assure you our staff is trained to be courteous. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" "Karen, yes, I want this teenager fired immediately. She was talking back to me and being disrespectful. This is outrageous." The manager looked at me, then back at her. "Manager, ma'am, I'm going to need you to lower your voice. Can you explain exactly what happened?" "Karen, She told me you don't have nuggets, which is ridiculous, and when I asked for them anyway, she kept arguing with me. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Me? I'm sorry, but I wasn't arguing. I was explaining our current stock situation and offering alternatives. Karen, see, she's doing it again, talking back. Fire her right now, or I'm calling corporate. My manager walked over to the nugget warmer and opened it up so she could see inside. Manager, ma'am, as you can see, we genuinely don't have any chicken nuggets available right now. The tray was completely empty, not even crumbs left. It was obvious we weren't lying. Karen, well, you should have made more. This is your fault for poor planning. Manager, I understand your disappointment, but I'm going to have to ask you to stop yelling at my employee. She's a minor, and she handled this situation exactly as she should have. Karen, don't tell me how to talk. I'm the customer. The customer is always right. Manager, actually, ma'am, the customer is not always right, especially when they're screaming at teenagers. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Karen, excuse me. You can't kick me out. I haven't done anything wrong. Manager, you've been yelling at my employee for doing her job correctly, and you've demanded I fire her for following proper procedures. That's harassment, and I won't tolerate it in my restaurant. Karen, this is discrimination. I'm calling corporate and telling them how horribly I've been treated. Manager, you're welcome to do that. Here's our corporate number. But right now, I need you to leave, and you're no longer welcome in this location. Karen, you can't ban me. I'll sue you. Manager, ma'am, this is private property, and I have the right to refuse service to anyone who harasses my staff. Please leave now, or I'll call the police for trespassing. She stood there for a moment, probably trying to think of something else to threaten us with. When she realized he was serious, she grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. Karen, this isn't over. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. She slammed the door so hard the bell above it kept ringing for 10 seconds. After she left, my manager turned to me. Manager, you okay? You handled that perfectly. Me, thanks. I was worried I said something wrong. Manager, not at all. Some people think they can bully teenage workers because they assume we won't stand up for you. But that's not how we run things here. The best part? About an hour later, she actually did call corporate. My manager got a call from his district manager asking about the incident. After he explained what happened, corporate backed him completely. They even sent a note to all the local stores with her description, warning them about a customer who harasses staff. She tried to come back 3 days later like nothing happened. I was working the drive-thru when I saw her car pull up. I immediately called my manager over. Manager, ma'am, as I told you before, you're not welcome at this location. Karen, I just want to order food. Manager, you'll need to go to a different restaurant. Have a good day. She actually called the police that time, claiming we were discriminating against her. The officer came in, listened to both sides, and told her that businesses have the right to refuse service to disruptive customers. He suggested she find a different restaurant. I still work there, and my manager uses that incident as a training example for new employees. He tells them that no customer has the right to abuse staff, and that he'll always have our backs when we're doing our jobs correctly. Sometimes I wonder if she ever got her chicken nuggets that day. Story 4. I've been working at this upscale steakhouse for about 3 years now. Started as a server right after college when I couldn't find anything in my field. And honestly, the tips kept me here longer than I planned. The place has a good reputation, expensive cuts of meat, and usually decent customers. But every now and then, you get someone who thinks they can game the system. My manager trained me well when I started. He's been in the restaurant business for over 20 years and has seen every scam in the book. He always told us to document everything, especially with difficult customers, because people will try anything to get a free meal. I never really believed him until I met Karen. It was a busy Saturday night, the kind where we have a waiting list and every table is full. I was assigned to the main dining room, handling 6 tables at once. Karen walked in alone, which wasn't unusual, but she had this attitude from the moment she sat down. She looked around like she owned the place and snapped her fingers at me when she was ready to order. Karen, I want your best ribeye, medium rare, and it better be perfect. Me? Absolutely. That's our 16-ounce prime ribeye. Would you like any sides with that? Karen, loaded baked potato and asparagus. And bring me your most expensive wine by the glass. I put in her order and brought her the wine. She barely acknowledged me, just kept scrolling on her phone. When the food came out, it looked perfect. Our kitchen staff takes pride in their work, and this ribeye was cooked exactly to her specifications. The potato was fluffy with all the fixings, and the asparagus was bright green and crisp. For the next 30 minutes, I watched her eat, and I mean really eat. She cut into that steak with enthusiasm, taking big bites and clearly enjoying every morsel. She finished the entire potato, ate all but 2 spears of asparagus, and polished off probably 90% of that ribeye. She even ordered a second glass of wine halfway through. I checked on her a few times, and she seemed completely satisfied. She never complained about anything, never called me over, never made any faces like something was wrong. She just ate and drank and scrolled her phone. Then, as I was walking past her table to serve another customer, she suddenly pushed her plate away and started making a scene. Karen, oh my God, this food is disgusting. I think I'm going to be sick. She said it loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. Other customers started looking over, and I could see my manager already heading our way. Me, I'm so sorry to hear that. What seems to be wrong with your meal? Karen, this steak is raw. The potato tastes like dirt. Everything is awful. I want to speak to your manager right now. My manager appeared beside me, and I have to give him credit for staying calm. He's dealt with this before. Manager, good evening, ma'am. I understand you're having an issue with your meal. Can you tell me what's wrong? Karen, everything. This whole meal is inedible. I barely touched it because it made me sick. I demand a full refund and compensation for ruining my night. My manager looked down at her plate. There were maybe 2 bites of steak left, a few crumbs from the potato, and those 2 asparagus spears. The rest was completely gone. Manager, ma'am, I can see that you've eaten almost your entire meal. If there was a problem with the food, why didn't you let us know sooner so we could fix it? Karen, I was trying to be polite, but this is the worst food I've ever had in my life. You people should be ashamed. She was getting louder and more dramatic. Other diners were starting to stare, and I felt bad for them having their meals interrupted by this performance. Manager, I understand your concern, but given that you've consumed nearly the entire plate, it's difficult for us to offer a refund. However, I'd be happy to speak with you privately about this matter. Karen, no, I want everyone to hear how terrible this place is. You're trying to poison people with this garbage. That's when my manager made a decision that I'll never forget. He excused himself for a moment and came back with his tablet. Manager, ma'am, we have security cameras throughout the restaurant for safety purposes. Would you like me to review the footage of your dining experience? Karen's face went white for just a second, but she recovered quickly. Karen, I don't care about your stupid cameras. I'm never coming back here, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows how awful you treat customers. She stood up so fast that her chair nearly fell over. She threw her napkin on the table and stormed toward the exit, shouting about how she was going to write terrible reviews and call the health department. Manager, ma'am, you still need to pay for your meal. But she was already pushing through the front door, ignoring him completely. My manager just shook his head and walked back to his office, probably to pull up that security footage for documentation. I started clearing her table, and honestly, I felt bad for the other customers who had to witness that whole show. The couple at the next table apologized to me, saying they couldn't believe someone would act like that. I thanked them and finished cleaning up, thinking that was the end of it. But about 10 minutes later, we heard this loud crash from the parking lot. Through the front windows, we could see Karen standing next to her car, which was now intimately acquainted with one of the concrete poles that mark the parking spaces. She had backed right into it, and from the looks of it, she'd hit it pretty hard. The impact had dented her rear bumper and shattered one of her taillights. She was standing there looking at the damage, and even from inside the restaurant, we could see her having what looked like a complete meltdown. My manager went outside, probably to make sure she was okay and that no other cars were damaged. I watched through the window as she gestured wildly at her car, clearly blaming everyone but herself for what happened. A few other customers had noticed too, and I heard someone mutter something about karma. When my manager came back inside, he was trying not to smile. "Manager, she's fine, just some damage to her car." Apparently, she was so upset about her terrible dining experience that she wasn't paying attention while backing out. The rest of the night went smoothly. Word spread among the staff about what happened, and it became one of those stories we'd tell new employees as an example of why you should always stay professional, no matter how ridiculous customers get. A week later, my manager showed me that security footage he'd mentioned. Karen was clearly visible enjoying every bite of her meal, checking her phone, sipping her wine, and looking completely content for the entire 30 minutes. The timestamp showed exactly when she suddenly decided the food was terrible, right after she'd finished almost everything on her plate. We never heard from her again. No bad reviews, no health department calls, nothing. I guess the combination of having to pay for the meal she tried to scam out of and the expensive car repairs made her reconsider her strategy. Sometimes the universe has a funny way of serving up justice, even in a parking lot. Story 5. I've been working at the local movie theater for about 3 years now. Started when I was 16 as an usher, worked my way up to assistant manager by the time I turned 19. The job isn't glamorous, but it pays decent and I actually enjoy movies, so it works out. Plus, my boss is pretty cool and lets me handle difficult situations on my own most of the time. Working at a theater, you see all kinds of people. Most are fine, just wanting to enjoy a movie. But sometimes you get the real characters. The ones who think the rules don't apply to them. The ones who make your shift memorable for all the wrong reasons. Last Saturday was one of those nights. It was around 7 in the evening, and we had a packed house. The new horror movie Nightmare Valley was playing, and it had been sold out for 3 shows straight. This wasn't some mild, scary movie either. It was rated R for intense violence, gore, and disturbing images. The kind of movie that makes grown adults jump out of their seats. I was doing my usual rounds, checking on theaters, and making sure everything was running smoothly. As I walked past Theater 8 where Nightmare Valley was playing, I heard something that made me stop. Crying. Not just any crying, but the high-pitched wailing of very young children. I quietly opened the theater door and looked inside. The movie had been playing for about 20 minutes, and on the screen was a particularly gruesome scene. In the middle section, I could see a woman with what looked like 2 small kids, maybe 4 and 6 years old. The younger one was sobbing loudly, and the older one was covering his eyes and shaking. Other moviegoers were starting to turn around and look annoyed. Some were shushing, others were giving dirty looks. The woman just sat there, not moving, like nothing was happening. I walked down the aisle toward her. As I got closer, I could see the kids were absolutely terrified. The little girl was clinging to her mother's arm, tears streaming down her face. Excuse me, ma'am?" She looked at me with this annoyed expression, like I was bothering her. "Karen, what?" "I think your children might be too scared for this movie. Maybe we could help you find something more appropriate for them." "Karen, they're fine. They need to toughen up." The little boy was now crying too, trying to hide his face in the seat. Other people were starting to grumble louder. "Ma'am, this is rated R. How old are your children?" "Karen, that's none of your business." Actually, it is my business. We have age restrictions for a reason. I'm going to need to see your tickets." She huffed and dug around in her purse, finally handing me 2 tickets. Both were for Princess Adventure, the kids' movie playing in Theater 3. These tickets are for a different movie. You're not supposed to be in here. Karen, so what? I paid for tickets. Me, you paid for tickets to a different movie. This is rated R, and your children are clearly too young and too frightened. I need you to take them to the movie you actually bought tickets for, or I can refund your tickets. By now, the kids were crying even louder. A particularly scary scene came on, and the little girl let out a shriek that echoed through the theater. Several people turned around and started complaining. Random moviegoer, can you please control your kids? Another person, this is ridiculous. Karen stood up, and I thought she was finally going to leave. Instead, she turned around to face the other customers. Karen, mind your own business. My kids have every right to be here. Me, ma'am, please lower your voice. You're disturbing other customers who paid to see this movie. Karen, well, maybe they should have stayed home if they can't handle a little noise. The kids were now in full meltdown mode. The little girl was screaming, and the boy was hyperventilating. It was heartbreaking to watch. Me, that's it. I need you to come with me. We're leaving the theater. Karen, you can't make me leave. I paid for tickets. Me, you paid for tickets to a different movie, and you're disturbing other customers. Please gather your things. She grabbed her purse and yanked the kids up roughly. They were still crying as I escorted them out of the theater. Once we got to the lobby, she really let loose. Karen, this is absolutely unacceptable. You traumatized my children. Me, ma'am, you brought them into an R-rated horror movie without permission. They shouldn't have been in there in the first place. Karen, I want free tickets for this trauma. You've ruined our night. Me, I can refund the tickets you actually purchased, but I can't give you free tickets for sneaking into the wrong movie. Karen, sneaking. I didn't sneak anywhere. You're lying. Me, you bought tickets for Princess Adventure, but went into Nightmare Valley instead. That's not allowed. Karen, prove it. You can't prove anything. At this point, I'd had enough. The kids were still upset. Other customers were staring, and she was getting louder by the minute. Me, actually, I can prove it. Please wait here. I went to get my manager. He's been running theaters for over 15 years and has seen everything. When I explained the situation, he just shook his head. Manager, let me guess. She wants free stuff now. Me, free tickets for trauma, apparently. Manager, bring her to the office. We walked back out to the lobby where she was still ranting to anyone who would listen about how poorly she'd been treated. The kids had calmed down a little, but still looked shaken. Manager, ma'am, I understand there's been an issue tonight. Karen, your employee here traumatized my children and kicked us out for no reason. I want compensation. Manager, I see. Well, let's review what actually happened. He led us all to his office and pulled up the security footage on his computer. The cameras covered the lobby and the entrances to each theater. He fast-forwarded to about 30 minutes earlier. There on the screen, clear as day, was Karen walking up to Theater 8 with her 2 kids. She looked around, then quickly ushered them inside. The timestamp showed this was about 5 minutes after Nightmare Valley had started. Manager, can you explain this footage? Karen's face went red. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. Karen, that doesn't prove anything. Manager, it shows you entering Theater 8, which is showing Nightmare Valley, an R-rated film. Your tickets were for Theater 3, Princess Adventure. Karen, maybe I made a mistake. Manager, a mistake that resulted in your young children being exposed to graphic violence and disturbing content. Content that clearly frightened them. The manager pulled up more footage showing them leaving the theater, with both kids crying and visibly upset. Manager, instead of taking responsibility for your actions, you're demanding free tickets and claiming we traumatized your children. You traumatized them by sneaking them into an inappropriate movie. Karen, I want to speak to your corporate office. Manager, you're welcome to do that. In the meantime, I'm banning you from this theater for 1 year. Karen, you can't do that. Manager, I absolutely can. You violated our policies, disturbed other customers, and put young children in an inappropriate situation. Your picture will be shared with all staff members. Karen, this is discrimination. Manager, this is consequences. Security will escort you out. She grabbed her kids and stormed toward the exit, muttering about lawyers and corporate complaints. The kids, poor things, were just trying to keep up with her angry march. After they left, the manager turned to me. Manager, good job handling that. Some people think rules don't apply to them. Me, I felt bad for those kids. They were really scared. Manager, that's not on you. That's on their mother for making a selfish decision. The rest of the night went smoothly. A few customers who had been in Theater 8 actually thanked me for handling the situation quickly. One couple even bought me a soda from the concession stand. A week later, the manager told me that Karen had indeed called corporate to complain. When they reviewed the security footage and his report, they supported the one-year ban completely. Apparently, she also tried to dispute her credit card charge for the original tickets and was denied when the credit card company saw the evidence. Some people never learn that actions have consequences. But at least those kids got to see Princess Adventure the following weekend when their dad brought them in. He apologized for his ex-wife's behavior and said the kids had been having nightmares all week from the horror movie. That's the part that still bothers me the most, not Karen's entitled attitude, but how her selfishness affected those innocent kids. They deserved better than being dragged into a situation that would give them nightmares just because their mom wanted to save a few bucks on tickets.